97.3 Citi FM. Relevant radio, always.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Politicos on Citi TV with me, Umaru Sanda Amadu. This week, we are going to look into the issue having to do with the gift that was given to the President of the Republic. It was a Ford vehicle, but that has since been challenged and questioned by many who think it's a corrupt act. Is that really what it was, or is it just a genuine gift? Also, in the camp of the NPP, its suspended national chairman, Paul Afoko, is having a rough ride in the courts because one of his key witnesses, that is Kwabena Ejapong, the suspended general secretary of the party, has ditched him. He has failed to show up to give testimony in that very serious case that he is challenging his suspension. Later on, the APC, that party formed by Hassan Ayariga, formerly of the PNC, went to Congress this week to elect national officers and a flag bearer. And instead of having only adult delegates, we saw children, very young ones at that, carrying delegate tags. Who were they? Ayariga claims they were his children. We'll find out soon on Politicos. Let's talk about Paul Afoko now. That's a man who was suspended by the New Patriotic Party as its chairman. He was elected and suspended by the party. He's challenging that thing. He's challenging that suspension in court. And he's called a number of witnesses. I mean, he himself has been a witness. Then he was expecting to rely on his sidekick, for want of a better word, who was also suspended, the general secretary of the party, who has been suspended, Kwabena Ejapong. Now, this week, when the case was called in court, the lawyers for Paul Afoko said they were not able to bring Kwabena Ejapong to testify. What does that mean to the case itself? Does it mean an end to the case? Fred Tetejabano is a man who has been going to the court. Was it surprising to Paul Afoko's team, or they announced it in court?
They actually announced it. The lawyer for Paul Afoko, Safo Boabin, made this known to the judge after their second witness, Martin Pebu, who is another lawyer for Paul Afoko, finished testifying. They told the court that Mr. Ejapong was not available, and therefore they would want to close their case, meaning that the NPP would have to open their defense at the next agenda.
Was there any reason ascribed to Kwabena Ejapong's failure to show up?
The lawyer didn't cite any reasons. He just announced to the court that his witness will not be coming to court, and therefore they don't want to. They've ended their case for that particular issue.
But that would have been a very key person in the party. That's someone who has once been general secretary, or in fact is still a general secretary except that he's on suspension. That would have been very key in the evidence that Paul Afoko wants to present before the court. Do you think there would be maybe something short of what he entirely wanted to show to the court?
I would not be able to say that, because I'm sure the legal team had planned this whole thing. If they thought Mr. Ejapong would have been very crucial for their case, I'm sure they would have tried convincing him to come. They would have tried convincing him to come and testify. Once they told the court that they've closed their case, it will be very difficult to say whether Mr. Ejapong would have been a very material witness in this particular issue.
So what's the next step? What are we expecting to see in the court?
As we speak now, the case has been adjourned to the 14th of July, to the 22nd of June. And when we come back, when the court comes back on the 22nd of June, the NPP led by Godfred Dame would open their case in the matter.
Fred, let's move away from the court now and go to the executive. That's the Flagstaff House. President Mahama has been, or his name rather, has come up in a gift. Or is it a conflict of interest situation, a corruption deal? I don't know, depends on where you are looking at it from. Everybody have their own designation for it. A vehicle that was given to the president. What do we know?
Yes, what we know is that a Burkinabe named Jibril Kanazoe gave a Ford vehicle to the president as a gift. This is what he claims. This was a report by a media house, an Accra-based media house,
Joy FM. Yes.
Exactly. And according to this particular report, Mr. Kanazoe was the one who built the fence wall at the Ghana's Burkinabe mission. And it also claimed that Mr. Kanazoe had tried to win a contract and he was having difficulty. So a friend of his introduced him to President Mahama. After that, he was able to get the contract. Later, that's in 2012, he brought the vehicle to President Mahama, which President Mahama received. We are told by government that this wasn't any bribe, this wasn't anything to corrupt President Mahama. President Mahama took the gift and decided to send the car to the state, so it's added to the presidential vehicle pool. Yes.
I see, but still the critics are not very happy about it. They're still calling it a bribe, even though the communication ministry has issued a statement distancing the president from any corrupt deal. What is the case of critics, and what's the case of people who are supporting the president?
The critics are saying that President Mahama outlawed some code of conduct for government officials, where he categorically said that taking gifts were wrong. So it was surprising to them that the president would receive a gift like a Ford Expedition. The minority have even taken the issue further and have threatened that if they are looking into the matter and they are likely to bring an impeachment process against the president. And we heard the Progressive People's Party is planning to go to court if push comes to shove. Exactly. They've asked the president to step aside, and they are saying that if the president doesn't, they'll be forced to go to the court. So the action is taken from there.
Very well. Thank you very much. Fred Tete Jabano joined us with those two issues. The issue having to do with Paul Afoko's case in court, as well as the president's Ford gift. Let's talk about the APC now. That party formed by Hassan Ayarga, the 2012 flag bearer of the People's National Convention. He broke away, I'm sure you remember that, after he lost the Congress to Dr. Abdul Mahama. So this week, they went to Congress to elect national officers as well as a flag bearer. And aside everything that happened, there was something very striking. There were children. They were bearing tags. Written on these tags, delegates. Duke Mensa Opoku is part of a team of journalists who went to cover that event, and he is back now. Duke, how young were the children we were talking about? I mean, I'm sure you cannot mention them by age, but if you could estimate.
I mean, very, 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 very young children, male and female, some of them about 8 or 7 years, way behind the qualifying age for voting, which is about 18 years. So we are talking about kids about 9 years, 10, 11, and 12. I mean, per normal Ghanaian standards. And they were bearing tags, APC delegates coming to vote for a presidential candidate to contest.
Does the law frown on children going to delegate congresses and voting insane?
I mean, explicitly, we don't have any laws against children going to delegate conferences. I mean, they could be following their parents or their guardians or whatever to go and observe, I mean, for the political fever and all of that. But to have kids going for a delegate congress bearing tags as people who qualify to vote, I mean, it flies in the face of the law.
But the party responded too. The flag bearer himself responded, and then the one official, who is the general secretary, also responded. They gave two different accounts of why the children were at the scene.
Yeah. I mean, but their responses actually did not in any way dispute the fact that the kids were there and was against the rules.
Hassan Ayaga, for instance, said that the children were his children. And then the general secretary said the children were there as a tourist attraction, so they hadn't seen the conference center before.
But they were bearing tax. And even apart from the children, some other people that we spoke to said some people just gathered them, buzzed them and brought them there, that they were going to give them money and that they had to come and see Hassan Ayaga. Clearly, which means that they were not even at the base of the party and did not even understand what the APC stood for.
But before the Electoral Commission certifies you should have satisfied some basic requirements, such as having ward or constituency executives or even regional executives and even offices. If the party didn't have this, which is what we are thinking it is from the Congress, then how did they get their license, or how did they get their certificate?
Well, what I know about the EC is that the EC looks at the number of offices you have nationwide, constituency and district offices that you have nationwide. And according to Hassan Ayaga, when he was outdoing the party and outdoing his certificate, I was at that press conference, he said he had certified all of that and he had satisfied all of that. That's why he got the certification from the Electoral Commission. And when Amadou Sule was presenting them with their certificate, Amadou Sule and George Nopokwa Amankwa, the chairpersons of the Electoral Commission, were presenting them with their certificates. They said that they had satisfied those requirements, and that's why they gave it to them. But as to the structures of the party and who they elected as delegates and all of this, those are things that I think the political scientists should be probing.
Thank you very much, Duke Mensah Afoko, with that story from the APC Congress, where we saw children bearing delegate tags. Well, that's how we end to this edition of Politicos on Citi TV. My name is Umaru Sanda Amadu. Do join us next week with another exciting episode of Politicos.